Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Austin Farrell, and I am an assistant professor in educational studies, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you all tonight. Welcome to the community members, faculty, staff, and students to this important civil rights conference. This is our 25th anniversary of our conference, so I think we should give a little hand clap for that. Tonight we have a special guest here, Jose Hernandez, who will speak to our audience. Tonight we come together to celebrate the progress made in the ongoing fight for justice and equity, while also recognizing the fight that still lies ahead for us. I have the pleasure of recognizing and introducing the person or the student who will be introducing our guest speaker tonight. So we welcome you once, we welcome you twice, we welcome you 3 times to the University of Tennessee at Martin, and the next person you will hear from is Isabella Walker.
Hello, my name is Isabella Walker. I am a senior pre-vet major at UT Martin, and I am the president of the Latin Hispanic Student Association. Thank you all for being here. If there was ever anyone who embodied having a dream and pursuing it, that person would be Jose Hernandez. From the time he was a child, there was a nonstop desire to reach higher heights. As a young boy, working beside his parents and siblings in produce fields in California, his imagination grew and planted the seed of a lifelong goal: to go into space. This dream became a possibility when he saw an astronaut who looked like him be accepted into the astronaut corps. This present representation gave meaning to the saying, "You have to see it to be it." Jose Hernandez excelled in science and engineering and earned degrees at the University of the Pacific in Stockton and the University of California at Santa Barbara. He put his love for science to work by developing X-ray imaging techniques that impacted the medical field. Dr. Hernandez co-developed the first full digital mammography imaging system, a useful tool for detecting breast cancer at an earlier stage than other techniques used for mammograms. As we saw in the movie A Million Miles Away, perseverance is part of Jose Hernandez's character. After several attempts, he was selected to begin training as a mission specialist as part of the 2004 astronaut candidate class. He worked at NASA Johnson's Space Center from 2001 to 2011. As an astronaut, legislative analyst, branch chief, and materials research engineer. In 2009, he was the flight engineer aboard Space Shuttle Discovery on STS-128 as part of a 14-day science mission to International Space Station. Jose Hernandez is a University of California regent and the president and Chief Executive Officer at Tierra Luna Engineering, an aerospace engineering consulting company. He is also an entrepreneur, author, and recipient of numerous awards and honorary doctorates. One of the questions Jose Hernandez repeatedly asked as a child was, "What are stars for?" After learning more about his incredible life, I'd say stars are there to shine a light on what's possible and show us how to get there. He is truly a star, and we are thrilled he is visiting us at UT Martin. Let's give a skyhawk welcome to Jose Hernandez.
Thank you very much. Gracias. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Very happy to be here. and to speak here at University of Tennessee aquí in Martin, and really, really honored to spend the next few minutes with you talking about my experience, about how I got into space. I think the actual journey is probably more important than the actual destination of going into space, though I promise you I'm going to give you a summary of my 14-day space mission to the International Space Station. I was the second to last mission to finish construction of the International Space Station. And we took over more than, something's gone here. We took more than 7 tons of equipment to the International Space Station and installed the equipment both inside and outside. You could kind of think of us as the move-in guys. You know, after a house is built, you got to move in all the furniture. That was us. We took 7 tons of equipment, and most of it was installed inside, but some of it was installed outside. We did 3 spacewalks in groups of 2 at 7 hours apiece, and were able to install all that equipment during those 14 days. But first, I think what's more important is how I got there. I think my story probably begins way before I was even born. My story begins when my father was 15. At the young age of 15, my father's from Michoacan, La Piedad, Michoacan, central state of Michoacan, of Mexico there. And at the age of 15, out of economic necessity, he did what many kids from his hometown do, which was to go to California to work in the only thing they knew how to work, which was agriculture. So he quickly established a 3-stop routine, annual routine. 2 months in Southern California, 2 months in Central California, and 5 months in Northern California. So that's a total of 9 months. Then he would go back home to Michoacan, cool his heels, and that process would repeat itself year after year after year. It wasn't until he was 18, he's in his hometown. He meets my mom, my future mom. I guess they saw stars. I don't know. They fell in love and they got married. So my dad incorporates my mom into this nomadic lifestyle. And of course, with any marriage comes kids, right? And I am the youngest of 4. There's 4 of us. I'm the youngest one. You can see me up there. I'm the one holding the hat. On the other side is my Irish twin brother. I call him Irish twin because he's 11 months older than me. And then next in line and oldest is my sister. She's the one in the middle. And you don't see my oldest brother up there because he's the one that took the picture. But if you look down on the picture below, the guy with the white T-shirt, that's my oldest brother. I'm the one holding the tomato, and then my Irish twin is there, and then mi abuelito is there. And so that's 4 of us. Now, where we were born depended on what month you were born. So anyone who knows statistics knows I have a 9 in 12 chances of being born in the good old USA, right? And guess what? I beat those odds. I was born during the harvest. I'm a harvest baby. So I was born in Stockton. My Irish twin brother was born in Stockton as well because he was born 11 months before me. But my sister and my oldest brother, they were born in the winter. Guess where they were born? In Mexico, yeah. I kind of kid around with them. I said, do you know I can run for president of the United States and you can't? Because you have to be a natural born citizen, right? But I digress. Now I want you to imagine the first time I go to school. We're living the same nomadic lifestyle my dad started since he was 15. He's now married, has 4 kids, and I'm of kindergarten age. I go to Southern California, my first stop. First time I go to school, I go to my kindergarten teacher. I barely learned her name, where the bathroom's at, names of my friends when this 2 months come and goes, and now we got to go to Salinas, Central California. I'm only there for 2 months, so I barely learned my new teacher, my new kindergarten teacher's name and where the bathroom's at. Well, now we got to go to Stockton. I'm up to my third kindergarten teacher, third set of friends. And to top it off, now I got to get 3 months worth of homework because we're going to Mexico for 3 months. We didn't go to school over there. My mom would wake us up every morning, Monday through Friday when we were in Mexico, and we would do our homework, self-studying, grandma's kitchen, all the hot chocolate you can drink, all the sweet bread you can eat, but you will do your homework. Stained of chocolate it was, but we got that homework done. So as you see, I do this in the second grade, I do this in the third grade. Not a very conducive environment to learn the English language, even though I was born here, let alone the materials that was being taught. And it wasn't until the second grade that things changed for the better. The whole family was in the last stop in Stockton, second grade, November. Typically the month we go back to Mexico. My dad wakes up and makes the big announcement. What's that big announcement? He says, kids, we're going to Mexico. Get 3 months worth of homework from your teachers. We knew the routine. I did this in kindergarten, first grade. Now I'm doing it in second grade. My brothers are older, so they know it even better. So I tell my dad, sure, Dad. And you got to understand, my dad in those days, man, he was a special guy. Short on words, quick on the discipline, if you know what I mean. You did not want to cross my dad. So when he says, get 3 months worth of homework, I said, yes, Dad. Or, yes, sir. So I go to school that day, and I go to my kindergarten, my second grade class. And my second grade class, let's see if this guy's going. My teacher is Miss Young. You can see her there on the bottom, and you can see my picture up there on top. And I tell Miss Young, my second grade teacher, I tell her, Miss Young, we're going to Mexico next week. My dad says, if you can give me 3 months worth of homework. And she just gives me a frustrated look. And you got to understand the frustration, because she has done this for the Hernandez family. This is the fourth time she was going to do it. She did this for my 3 older siblings. Now she's doing it for me. And I guess fourth time was the charm. She says, you tell your parents that I'm going to come home and visit them today. Man, I got scared. Latino family, you don't want the teacher to come to your house, especially with the father I had. And I got scared. I said, okay, Miss Young, I will. Well, school gets out that day. Typically, I wait. I get out about 5 minutes before the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and graders get out. So my siblings were still in school. I got out. I usually wait for them. Not this time, because I had some juicy gossip I had to get to my parents. As soon as school was out, man, I hightailed it home. I felt like Paul Revere. The teacher's coming, right? And we lived about a mile away from school. In those days, you can have your kids walk to school a mile and back. Nowadays, we get arrested for child endangerment. We do that. But in those days, it was okay. So I get home, and my parents work in agriculture, picking fruits and vegetables. We join them Saturdays and Sundays, 7 days a week in the summer, like you saw in those pictures. And they pride themselves in coming home before school's out. That day was no different. I get home, they're home. I open the door. The first person I run into is my dad. He's in the living room taking off his work boots. I say, oh, great. I got to tell my dad first. I told you he's a special kind of guy, right? So I muster up the courage and I tell my dad, hey, Dad. I said, yes, son. I said, I talked to my teacher, Miss Young. Yes. And guess what? She's coming over in about 20 minutes. I think she wants to talk about, I did not finish about. When he stands up and he starts taking off his belt. You see, my dad has a different judicial system than the U.S. judicial system. Let me explain his system. Very simple. He likes to jump to conclusions, apply the punishment, and then he asks, what happened? ¿Qué pasó? And man, I wasn't about to get spanked for something I didn't do. So I'm backtracking, spilling everything out, see what sticks on the wall. Finally, the fact that we're going to Mexico finally convinces him that it may be that. But he did say, you better be right, because if it's a complaint, it's going to go twice as bad. And my dad's the type that he gives it to you twice as bad plus interest. So I wanted to, was saying, man, I hope Miss Young isn't going to say something complaining, because, man, I'm in real trouble now. Then I got to go tell my mom. Where's every mother, Latina mother, even though she worked in the fields all day? She's in the kitchen. Because her routine was we would get home from school. She would make us some sopita, rice, beans, tortilla, and she would feed us. She would feed us in the kitchen, in the little round table we had. We would all sit down, eat a snack right after school. But that was just a trap, because then she wouldn't let us get up until we finish our homework. I credit her with giving us the, instilling in us the habit of doing your homework before anything else. Before you go out and play, before you go and watch TV, she made sure we did our homework. And so I go into the kitchen and I have to tell my mom. And she's there in the kitchen doing her thing, and she's completely different than my dad. She's loving, very tender, caring, mijito esto, mijito that. And I tell her that the teacher's coming. Completely different priorities than my dad. She puts on that Macaulay Culkin Home Alone look. A teacher's coming. We got to sweep. We got to mop. We got to clean the house, because that's her priority. And man, I love when we had visitors, because I tell you, once we started spending the winters in California, things were slim pickings with respect to work for my dad or for the family. And so I had my fair share of rice and beans and salsa and tortilla. Never went to bed hungry, but certainly had my share of those staples I just mentioned. And I loved when visitors come, because when visitors came, the protein magically appeared in the form of a thin steak or chicken or pork chops. I just remember my dad used to make an announcement, your uncle's going to come and visit. Translation, we're going to eat meat. So when Miss Young came, we ate meat. It was great. And then Miss Young's, my dad invites her to the living room. My mom brings the coffee, and they drag me along. Why do they drag me along? They dragged me along because they did not know English at the time. Miss Young did not know Spanish. So who's the official translator? The kids are. And they dragged me along because it was my teacher. So they wanted to make sure if it was a complaint, I was there to answer to it. This is why I remember the conversation so vividly. Miss Young sits down as she's drinking her coffee. She thanks my mom for the wonderful dinner and all that stuff. And then she finally says, I'm not here to eat dinner. I'm here to talk about the education process of your 4 kids. Man, as soon as she said that, remember I told you my dad likes to jump to conclusions? He's thinking, this isn't a complaint of one kid. This is a complaint of all 4 of them. His face immediately, demeanor changes to one of anger. And if you saw his neck, you can see a vein pop out. That's how mad he was. Miss Young noticed that, and she calmed him down. She said, no, Mr. Hernandez, it's nothing bad. She says, quite the contrary. She said, I've had the privilege of having your 4 kids in my class right now. I have your youngest, Jose, and let me tell you, they all demonstrate great aptitude to go to college. I think they're going to go to college. She said, but the fact that you move around is not helping their education. And my dad immediately puts a halt to Miss Young. Say, hey, hang on, Miss Young, hang on. Wait. She said, look. Yes, my wife and I only have a 3rd grade education. Yes, my kids help us picking fruits and vegetables Saturdays and Sundays, 7 days a week during the summer. But when they're in school or they're studying. We're different from other migrant farm working families. We believe in education. Yes, my wife and I only have a 3rd grade education, but we believe in education. We want the best for them. So Miss Young says, well, that's great, but you moved 3 different school districts in a school year. You know what my dad's response was to that? What's the problem? We moved during the weekend. Didn't miss school. And then she says, but you go to Mexico for 3 months. Miss Young, but you give them their homework. Are you not giving them the right homework? Again, throwing it to her. So in my dad's eyes, he was meeting his commitment and giving us an education. Never mind the fact that we were moving 4 different places throughout the school year. Miss Young was clearly frustrated, but she got an idea. I saw her break half a smile. And she does something amazing. She puts my dad up in a pedestal, elevates him. She said, Mr. Hernandez, your kids tell me that since you were 15 years old, you have been working in agriculture. And my dad says, yes, that's correct, Miss Young. Then she says with great admiration, that must make you an expert on anything related to agriculture. Man, you didn't have to tell that to my dad. He immediately puts up his collar. I said, well, Miss Young, I'm not sure I'm an expert, but what can I do for you? Then she breaks out a full smile because he fell into her trap. She said, Mr. Hernandez, I'm going to give you a problem that perhaps will help both of us. And my dad said, okay. She said, imagine I give you a fruit tree in a potted plant. My dad says, well, thank you. What do you want me to do with the fruit tree? I want you to find the best ground, dig a hole, plant it on the ground. I want you to take good care of it like the expert that you are. Water it when you need to, fertilize it when you need to, but you're going to take good care of it. Can you do that? My dad said, yeah, that's easy. I can do that for you. Great. Then she looks at my dad and says, but in 3 months, I want you to find another piece of ground equally as good. Dig a hole. Remember that tree you planted over there? I said, yeah. My dad says, I want you to transplant that tree over here. And I want you to keep taking care of it. Man, my dad has a confused look in his face. He said, I don't know why she wants me to do that, but okay, I'll do it. And Miss Young says, great. One last thing. My dad says, yes. Every 3 months, I want you to keep transplanting that tree. And I want you to keep taking care of it. You, who are an expert in agriculture, what happens to that tree? Well, my dad didn't have to think hard because he knew the answer. He said, Miss Young, the tree's not going to die. You're feeding it. But I will tell you this. You're going to stunt its growth. It's going to stay a small tree. And if it's a fruit tree, it probably won't even bear fruit because it's going to be so weak. You're moving it around. You're not letting the roots grow deep. A tree needs to be in one place for the roots to grow deep, and then he raises his hand for theatrical purposes so the branches can grow big and strong. You can count to 2 seconds when his facial expression changed to one of, it looked like his hand got caught in the cookie jar. He knew he'd been had. And my dad's a very proud man, but I got to give him credit because he looked straight into Miss Young's eyes right after that moment and said, "Is that what you mean?" Miss Young said, "That's what I mean. I think my job is done here." She got up and excused herself. And I'll tell you, from then on, we still went to Mexico every year. But 3 months shrank into 3 weeks centered around Christmas vacation. Our 2.5-day drive from central Mexico to California, we did not stop in Southern California. We did not stop in Central California. We went straight to Northern California, Stockton, California. That became our home. That's when our education started to get traction. We started to learn English, the materials. But still, we were a farm working family living at or near poverty. So how in the heck does a kid in that socioeconomic situation dare to dream to be an astronaut? I'll tell you, that dream was conceived when I was 10 years old. Unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember the tail end of the Apollo era. You guys remember Apollo 17, the very last Apollo mission, December 1972? I had the pleasure of witnessing that moonwalk live on our old black and white vacuum tube technology TV with rabbit ear antennas. We didn't even have a remote control. I used to tell my dad, "Isn't it about time we get a TV remote control that's color?" Because ours was black and white. He said, "Boy, you are my remote control." And very pragmatic, because he said, "You want color? Use your imagination." And so that TV went on to work for another 3 years, by the way. But because we couldn't afford cable, we had rabbit ear antennas. And so I used to grab the antennas to improve reception. Of course, when you keep it held on, you're grounded, so the signal improves. Once you let go, it gets poor again. So my dad would always say, "Stay there." I'm convinced this is why I became an astronaut, because they televised Apollo 17 moonwalk, and I'm watching it, watching Gene Cernan as I'm holding the antenna. And I think it was through osmosis but I remember I would let go of the antenna and go outside and see the moon almost full. It's cold because it was December. Come back inside, listen and see the reporter Walter Cronkite narrating that moonwalk. And seeing Gene Cernan there, I said, "Man, I'm hooked. That's what I want to be. I want to be an astronaut." And I remember telling my dad exactly that. When I told him, he said, "Let's go to the kitchen." And I got scared when he said that, because only 3 things happened in the kitchen and 2 already happened. First one, I told you, Mom would feed us right after school. We'd do our homework. Done. Second, at Mom's assistance, we ate dinner together. Done. Third, not done. That was a tool shed. So I figured, man, I must have said something real bad to get this. And there I go, scared half to death, sitting in the same chair where I do my homework and eat. And my dad wasn't mad. He just made me justify why I wanted to be an astronaut. I just regurgitated everything Walter Cronkite said that evening. I said, "Dad, did you know this is the very last Apollo mission? Did you know NASA's going to build a new space vehicle and we're going to return to space? And I want to be part of that." And he did two amazing things. First, he validates the dream. He says, I think you can do it. Second, he says, if you want to do this, son, you got to follow a simple 5-ingredient recipe. And I told him, what's that recipe, Dad? He said, it's simple. And take a picture of this, because this is the money shot. He said, first, determine your purpose in life. What does Jose want to do when he grows up? I blurted it out. I said, I want to be an astronaut. Figure I got 1 out of 5. I'm almost there. Second, he says, recognize how far you are from your goal. I looked down in our linoleum floor, half peeling. We lived in a 2-bedroom, dilapidated rental in the worst part of Stockton. I said, Dad, we can't be any further than this. He said, great, I'm glad you recognize that. Because the third thing you got to do is you got to draw yourself a roadmap from where you know where you're at to where you want to go. You have to know the way to your destination, son. I said, what's the fourth one, Dad? You got to prepare yourself according to the challenge you picked. And you picked a doozy, so you know you got to go to college and then some. Fifth and final, he pointed outside the kitchen window. He says, you know that effort you put helping us out Saturdays and Sundays, 7 days a week, picking fruits and vegetables with your siblings, your mom and dad? I said, yeah. He pointed to my books on the kitchen table. He says, you put that effort there. And when you graduate college, you put that effort in your job. He said, always give more than what people expect out of you. Man, I went to bed so happy that day because I said, wow, my dad thinks I could be an astronaut, and he gave me a recipe on how to do it. And I have a sixth one there, you notice? That one's mine. It's perseverance. It means never, ever give up on yourself. I'm here to tell you that, hey, NASA rejected me not once, not twice, not even 3 or 4 times. I got rejected 11 times. It wasn't until my 12th attempt that I was invited to be part of the 19th class of NASA astronauts. Right now, I'm going to show you a video. It's me growing up. I want to warn you, it's very graphic. I told you we grew up in a very, very humble environment. And you're going to see a cute, cute, cute baby. That's me, by the way. This is where you say, ah. Me at 11 months.
There are places I remember.
3rd, 4th grade.
My life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better.
You saw Miss Young there. And I'm the one with the big ears on the front row.
All these places had their moments with lovers and friends.
I'm the one in the blue pants. I know we're going to church because we have our best Sunday clothes on.
Living in my life, I've loved them all.
This is off a tomato field in the outskirts of Stockton, California. Again, I'm the one with the hat, my sister and my brother.
There is no one compares with you.
Middle school gets a little interesting. I'm the one in the middle. Good at soccer, bad at hairdos.
When I think of love,
We won't even talk about high school.
though I know I'll never
Awkward time
lose
for
affection
during high school.
for people and things.
But of course, it's a very proud moment. As a Latino, you graduate high school.
Stop and
So
think
you not
about
only invite your immediate family, you invite your tios, tias, the whole extended family. And of course, they show up. Again, I hate this yearbook picture. I hate it. I hate it. Bad at hairdos. Graduating college, my mom and I. My sister, brother-in-law. I have my electrical engineering degree at Pacific. My oldest brother, also an engineer. Miss Young was right. All boys were engineers, and my sister is an accountant. So we all graduated college. The family, including my grouchy dad,
love
my
you
sister and all the
more.
kids. You don't see my mom because this was a Mother's Day present. And this is at the tail end of my, oops, let's see, I don't know what happened. This is at the tail end of the, of my first marathon. I've ran 11 marathons. And so as you saw how I grew up, I went to college, I went to graduate school. I landed my first job, and it's at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. And I had a choice of 3 projects. I picked this one because it involves space. It was developing an X-ray laser as a defense shield against a possible Soviet first attack. And I could care less about the laser. I just cared about the fact that we were going to send stuff into space. I said, man, this is going to look good in my first application with NASA. Because at this point, I was now eligible to apply to the NASA astronaut program. And apply I did. And guess what? I get my first rejection. But it was all right. I liked it because it was an official looking NASA letter with the NASA meatball, everything all official looking. It didn't even have my name. It said, "Dear applicant." But it was addressed to me, so I know it was for me. It had some good news, some bad news, and some good news. First set of good news. It says, dear applicant, upon reviewing your application, we concur with your assessment that you meet all the minimum requirements to be considered for the NASA astronaut position. I said, órale, NASA thinks I could be an astronaut. Then comes the bad news. More than 12,962 people that applied also meet these minimum requirements. Unfortunately, we could only consider 100 finalists. From these 100 finalists, 10 to 15 astronauts will be selected, and you're not one of the finalists. So I know I'm out. But then the good news. Please feel free to reapply at the next selection cycle. I said, okay, well, at least they're inviting me to apply again. Man, I was so proud of that letter, even though it was a rejection letter. I framed it up. I put it in the back wall of my office. And when my buddies came for a meeting in my office, I would say, hey, chécalo, NASA thinks I could be an astronaut. So it was a bragging picture. But anyway, I just continued working on this project. Well, something amazing happened. The Soviet Union breaks apart. Big bad wolf goes away. Justification for grandiose projects like this goes away. So the project gets canceled. Now, at the lab, there's more than 12,000 people working. Our project was only 200. So it's pretty easy to go on to new projects and get absorbed into existing projects. You weren't going to get laid off. But I think here is a lesson. When adversity strikes, you look for opportunity. Because out of those 200, 198 went to an existing project. I dedicated 5 years to this project. I developed pretty sophisticated X-ray transport analysis models using Monte Carlo X-ray transport theory and characterized how X-rays interact in 3D. And I went to my boss. I said, boss, we can't mothball this. I said, this is something we can use for something else. I'm sure. What? I don't know, but it's a pretty good tool. I got 5 years invested here. And he looked at it. He said, I think you're right. And he put it in a way I never thought of it. He said, it looks to me like you have an answer to a question we don't know. He said, why don't you help me shut this project down? I got 6 months worth of funding, and let's you and I find out what that question is. And you know what that question is how do you develop the first full-field digital mammography system for the early detection of breast cancer? We ushered in the era of medical digital imaging. We developed the first full-field mammogram system. I did the whole redesign of the X-ray tube, filtering system, and then developed charge couple devices that were sensitive to X-rays, and created the first digital full-field mammogram. And not only that, I spent 4 months at University of California, San Francisco, learning how to read mammograms, and I developed computer-aided diagnosis algorithm to detect possible early precursors to breast cancer like microcalcifications, stellate circumscribed lesions, asymmetric glandular distortion. So again, we demonstrated to the FDA that our device provided much more information than traditional film screen radiology. And more information means earlier detection. Earlier detection means saving lives. So when people ask me, what's my proudest professional moment? It's not being a NASA astronaut. It's not wearing this blue suit. It's actually this, because this has demonstrated to save hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives by now. So I'm pretty proud that this has made a bigger impact in humanity than I could ever do by going into space. And I'm very proud of that. So I worked another 5 years. Now I'm 10 years into my career after college. And I got my second, my third, my fourth, my fifth, my sixth rejection from NASA. I guarantee you I did not frame up that sixth rejection. I was so mad, I scrunched it up and I threw it in the garbage can so hard I was at home that I missed. I left it on the floor. And it's amazing how things turn out. Because had I made it in the garbage can, we would have took out the trash and I wouldn't be here. Because in my mind, I had given up. 6 rejections was my limit. But I was married by then. And my wife starts picking up the house. It's a Saturday. And she finds the letter on the floor. Curiosity gets the best of her. She unscrumples it and she reads it. And she's a smart lady. She puts 2 and 2 together. She says, this guy's giving up on me. So she comes down the hallway to confront me. And I'm an opportunist. I see her coming and I said, oh man, I'm going to lay it on thick. I'm going to say, poor me. NASA doesn't want me. And because I'm looking for comfort. And she's probably going to do what grandma used to do. Cup of hot cocoa, pan dulce, sweet bread, a hug and a kiss, and makes me feel better. So she confronts me with the letter. I lay it on thick. And guess what? No hot cocoa. No sweet bread. Definitely no hugs and kisses. She looks at me and hits my ego. She says, so you're a quitter. Ooh, that hurt. Someone that loves you and she calls you a quitter. I said, no, it's not a quitter. Look, 6 rejections. It's obvious NASA doesn't want me, I said. She puts up the letter and says, read the last sentence for me. Out loud, please. And I read it. Remember the last sentence? Please feel free to reapply at the next selection cycle. It looks to me like NASA's inviting you for a 7th try. She says, and if you don't apply, I do know this, you're not going to get selected. I also know that if you don't apply, you're always going to have that little worm of curiosity inside you that's going to gnaw at you, gnaw at you, gnaw at you, and you're going to grow up to be a bitter old man. And guess what? I don't want to be married to a bitter old man. So you better think about it. And she walks away with the words that resonated with me. She said, I don't know what they have that you don't have, meaning they that got selected as astronauts. And as she walked away, you know what? I didn't know either. I never bothered to compare myself with the people I want to be like. That's one thing you got to do. You not only got to meet minimum requirements, But you got to compare yourself with the people you want to be like and make sure you look like them from a training professional perspective. And so once I did that, I found out, yes, we had similar education. Yes, we had similar work experience. Yes, we were in the same age range. But then I looked deeper and I saw that they were all pilots. I wasn't a pilot. So what did I do? I invested in myself. I became visual flight rule qualified, instrument flight rule. I became a pilot. Then I took a deeper dive into everybody's background. They not only were pilots, but they were diver qualified, scuba. I wasn't diver qualified. So guess what? I drove every day, every weekend, 2.5 hours down from inland Stockton to Monterey, California. I got basic certified, advanced certified, scuba rescue, master rated certified. I wanted to make sure NASA knew I knew how to scuba dive. But then what really clinched the deal for me was my next 5 years at Lawrence Livermore Lab. I spent 5 years in this other project. It was a project no one wanted. It was going to Russia, coming full circle with the Russians now, helping them protect their nuclear material from a materials protection, control, and accountability perspective in the nuclear nonproliferation arena. And the State Department was looking for engineers that knew the ins and outs of special nuclear material. And of course, national labs have that expertise, but no one wanted to go. Because it was a 5-year program. You were going to go to, of all places, sunny Siberia and help the Russians take control of their nuclear stockpile. I said, put me in, coach. I didn't volunteer because I was looking forward to being in Siberia in the middle of winter. But I had read, and this is a lesson of being strategic with your career. I had read that the U.S. and Russia had signed an agreement to build what was going to be the International Space Station. And it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that we were going to be working with the Russians up in space in the near future. Even though I am a rocket scientist. So when I saw this opportunity, I said, this is my great differentiator. This is the third element of my strategy. First, meet minimum requirements. Second, make sure you look like the people you want to be like. And third, create yourself a differentiator. Because this was a differentiator because how many people of those 12,962 people that applied can say they work in Russia? How many of them can say, because I asked for Russian language, so я понимаю по-русски язык, how many can say they speak Russian? And all of a sudden, 25 trips later, 5 years later, and 5 years of Russian language instruction, that's when NASA comes calling and says, welcome to the 19th class of NASA astronauts. Man, I said, all right, I'm here. I made it. Hard part's over. Guess what? Come to think of it, when we get there, we find out we're not astronauts. We are astronaut candidates. Derogatory term, we're ASCANs. With no rights and privileges. Now you got to study for 2 years. You got about 16 books. You got to learn how to fly jets. You got to learn how to operate, and some of us land the space shuttle. You got to learn how to operate the International Space Station. You got to learn how to do EVA spacewalks in a 40-foot deep pool, simulating the EVA spacewalks. And every Friday, for the next 2 years, you have a written test, you have an oral test, and you have a simulator test. And you better pass it, else you get your pink paper come the following Monday. It's like being in graduate school finals for 2 years in a row. Highly, stressful, both mentally and physically, but you move forward. 2 years later, you graduate, you get your wings. Now you're a bona fide astronaut eligible to be assigned for flight. While you do that, you keep training. You take on a technical assignment supporting the space program. And you keep doing things like flying jets, accumulating hours, T-38 jets. You also do cold weather and winter survival training. Winter survival didn't faze me because I've been to Siberia. So I was conditioned for that. Water, I wasn't the strongest swimmer, so I had to practice a lot to swim a certain distance within a certain period of time. And then also you had to tread water for hours on end. In the middle of the ocean, you hoped the rescue helicopter found you before a shark did. You also did wilderness survival training. Here they gave you a map, 2 X's on the map. You're here, we want you over here. Here's a compass. Here's a satellite phone for medical emergency. Oh, and by the way, you don't get food and water. You got to find your own water sources. You learn how to eat plants, root systems. And this is, I kid you not, where I learned that squirrels taste like chicken. They taste good too. And then you do underwater analog missions in the Aquarius habitat off the coast of Key Largo, where you're there 14 to 21 days, simulating you're on the surface of the moon or Mars. And you do high fidelity experiments as if you were really, no kidding, on the surface of the moon or Mars. After that, you get assigned to a mission. You train with the same people, same 6 people as a crew of 7 of us. And I love these pictures because you can see us 7 getting on the Astrovan to go to Launch Pad 39 Alpha, make that 6-mile trip. And then you go up the 190-foot level of the launch tower, and you get into what's called the White Room, and they snap this picture of me smirking face to face because in about 3 or 4 hours, I'm about to realize a 37-year-old dream of going to space. Remember, I was 10 years old when I first wanted to be an astronaut. I was 47 when I finally realized that dream. The center picture is a picture when we did a dress rehearsal. We bring our family for posterity purposes. We take a picture. And as you can see, I'm a good Catholic, so we have 5 kids. The oldest, you see there, just got his PhD at Purdue University. He has 2 masters, bachelor's, and his PhD. He's a Boilermaker, and it's in aerospace engineering. I asked him, why Purdue, son? He said, I made a list of all the astronauts NASA has selected, and guess which school has produced the most astronauts? It's Purdue. And that's why he went. So I guess he wants to be an astronaut. And then I have 3 girls after that. They all graduated from college. One even has a master's in data science. And finally, the third one, he's in his 3rd year of mechanical engineering. I could see the light at the end of the long, dark tuition tunnel. I'm almost there. Yeah, a couple more years and I'm out. So they're all good kids. I'm very happy, very proud of them. And then, of course, we get ready to launch. I love this picture because this is about 3 seconds after we launch. I'm on top of that shuttle, Discovery. We launched August 28, 2009, off of Launch Pad 39 Alpha in Cape Canaveral. And I was the flight engineer. Flight engineer is one of the busiest spots. It's the most coveted spot because you're sitting right behind the two pilots, but you get that panoramic view. But for that, you got to pay the price of now you got to hawk all 10 monitors, 5 from each pilot. And you got to know all the systems. The pilots only have to learn their systems. So it's a tough job, but it's well worth it, and you're gonna see it. Let me take you through the launch sequence. You're gonna see the 3 engines light up, and then here the 2 white solid boosters light up. Once those light up, you know you're going somewhere. That's the mission patch. We launched near midnight, and the first voice you're gonna hear is the launch director giving us the green light for launch.
Discovery,
Go
launch
for
director.
launch.
Discovery, go ahead, sir. Well, CJ, the vehicle's clean and the teams are go. And this time Mother Nature is cooperating, so it looks like third time really is the charm. We wish you and your team good luck and Godspeed.
Thanks, Pete. On behalf of the crew of Discovery, thanks to everyone who helped prepare for this mission. Let's go step up the science on the International Space Station.
I think Discovery OTC, close launch advisors, initiate O2 flow.
Discovery, roger. There goes the beanie cap crew. Let's go ahead and check the task in.
At this point, we're seconds from launch. You're gonna see the 3 engines light up. Here are the 2 solid rocket boosters.
Get on the roger. 102, 102, auto, 5, 6, 7, there you go, population on the left. On the right. Houston Discovery, roll program.
You're gonna hear my voice because as a flight engineer, I give cadence to the pilots of where we're at in the flight profile.
Copy, Jose. Oh, yeah. All right.
The solid rocket boosters are only on for 2.5 minutes. Then they pop
They
off.
look good. You can have that display. All right.
Pop off there. They fall to the ocean with parachutes and they're reusable, so they're recovered. The 3 engines go on for 8.5 minutes of powered flight.
Copy, Jose.
You go from 0 to 17,500 miles an hour in 8.5
There it is.
minutes.
All right, 25.8. All right, you can raise up your seat if you
At
want
8.5
to. Good.
minutes, we reach the point we call MECO, main engine cutoff. Once we have main
Timer.
engine cutoff,
All right,
we
good
no
job.
longer need that external tank.
Let's work it hard.
So now we're going to separate
And I'm
from
waiting
that
for the
tank.
20-second plus X.
And here's the separation on
Lift up in your
the
seat. There it goes.
inside
All right, waiting for
picture.
104.
Separating. At this point, you can see that we're officially
1 potato, 2 potato.
in space.
I started it at 56. I will release it at 16 after.
You can see me give the thumbs up because now I'm a bona fide astronaut. And once you're up there,
Just a small town
this is the whole
girl
spot, by the way. Ladies want to be astronauts.
living in a lonely
Colleague of mine, fellow
world.
engineer.
She took the midnight train going in.
Once you're up there, you can see everything floats. You're going around the world once every 90 minutes.
Just a city
Yours
boy,
truly,
born and raised
Commander
in
CJ
South
Sturkow, coming down to
Detroit.
change his street clothes.
He took
Tim
the
Cobra playing
midnight
with water.
train going
Nicole Stott brushing her teeth. Jose Hernandez goofing off. That cylinder in the payload, that's where we have most of the 7 tons of equipment that are
LTCS
installed.
0.07. Copy.
But before we gotta
HHS
dock
maybe
to the
about
International
0.06.
Space Station.
From Discovery.
As we catch up to the station,
All right, that's last word. All right. Good job.
Strangers waiting up and down the boulevard. Their shadows searching in the
once we connect to the station, we can open up that hatch. You got a neat little tunnel from the shuttle to the station. flight engineer. I stay inside. But they go outside to begin install a
Great, Danny, I see the airlock thermal cover is open. You can egress the airlock. Remember to avoid that engine mode.
They latch themselves onto the tip of the robotic arm, and I'm kind of like a user in space. They get the equipment, I take it to the work site. And they have master views of the robot. While they're doing that, we're still working inside. Some of us manning the robotic arm, others doing other work. This is Nicole looking off the shelf now. Getting a haircut in space. Shampooing in here. Space cowboy shower. From the robotic workstation now. Now we unstopped the station. Time to go home. The station's as big as a football field. We put on our long headphones. Now we come home. Turns out the weather was bad in Florida on the third landing site. That's what my family was taking on me. But we had to land at Edwards Air Force Base, Southern California, my home state. I call it poetic justice landing because it's about 80 miles from where I used to pick strawberries.
Welcome home, Discovery. Congratulations on an extremely successful mission, stepping up science to a new level on the International Space Station.
And that's a typical 14-day mission to the International Space Station. I like to put this graphic up because I always say, hey, it's great to have lofty goals, but you also got to make sure you're enjoying the journey. And I love talking about how it's important to balance your life with family and your professional aspirations. Here are 3 examples that I love with my kids. The first one is with my daughter. She's the one that has a master's in data science. And we're visiting my shuttle at the Smithsonian. That's the one I went to space with. Middle picture, as a graduation gift, I gave my son, the one that wants to be an astronaut, the Dr. Hernandez. He hates that I call him Dr. Hernandez, but a proud father calls his son Dr. Hernandez. I gifted him a 0G flight where you can float for 30 seconds at a time. And he loved it. He got so excited. He said, Dad, what else do I need to do to get ready to become an astronaut? Because I'm flying, learning how to scuba dive. I'm learning Russian. I said, read my book. Anything to sell a book, right? And then my daughter, Vanessa Hernandez, I love promoting her because she's the only non-STEM kid I have. She went into business management. And between you and me, because she's like I don't know, what they call them, social media influencers? I don't know. She's one of those anyway. But anyhow, she makes more money. The point is she makes more money than the rest of the kids. And she has a non-technical degree. It's funny how life works out. After I took Julio, my son, Dr. Hernandez, on a 0G flight, I said, I'm going to take my daughter, the non-STEM one, and I'm going to see what she does in terms of her influencing, what kind of videos she presents. She did not disappoint me. Let me show you her video. Float 30 seconds at a time.
I can show you what you wanna see and take you where you wanna be. You could be my luck. Even if the sky is falling down, I know that we'll be safe.
You guys ever get a chance to do a 0G, you should do it because it's pretty fun. It's a lot of fun doing it. But I like this slide also because it comes full circle. Remember, once I left NASA, I came back home. I started my consulting business, and you can see how it started when I was 12 years old, driving a tractor. 15 years ago, you got that smirk on my face because I'm about to go into space, fulfill my 37-year-old dream. And then how's it going today? Well, guess what? I still drive a tractor. I still pick grapes, and that's my father, 87-year-old, who helps me in the vineyard. The only thing is now the difference is it's my tractor, it's my vineyard, and get ready for the commercial. I also make my own wine. I got my own label, wine tastes out of this world. Best wine made by an astronaut, I guarantee it, because I'm probably the only one. But yes, I have great award-winning wine. I do not think we're allowed to deliver to Tennessee, though. So I want to give you that bad news. But whenever you come to California, any other state, get it, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. I also wrote 3 books. I'm writing a 4th book right now. And the books have been so well received that Hollywood came calling. Yeah, Hollywood came calling. They said, we want to make a movie about you. And it's with none other. The director is Alejandra Marquez Abella, but Michael Peña plays me in the movie. I know what you're thinking. He's not as good looking as I am. But he's a good actor. As a matter of fact, I want to show you the movie trailer, official movie trailer. Let me set it up for you. The very first scene is when I'm courting my wife and we're sharing each other's dreams. She does not recall and denies that she laughed in my face when I told her I want to be an astronaut. I beg to differ. It's my movie, so we did it my way. Here you go.
So, what's your big goal, dream?
I want to be an astronaut.
Now she did laugh.
Oh my God. You're serious? Okay.
I wanted this for almost 30 years.
Ma, ¿para qué sirven las estrellas?
Every decision I've made with the space program in mind. Who the hell are you? I'm Jose Hernandez, sir. I'm an engineer.
You're the new guy, right? That 3rd floor men's room needs toilet paper.
Going to space. It's a stupid dream. Last 10 candidates were chosen from 12,962 applicants. It's never gonna happen.
Those people who got into the program, what do they have that you don't?
They have skills that I don't have. It's taken them years to get where they are, but there's no guarantee. I know this is hard on everybody. My body hurts, I can't sleep. I know I can make this work. Over the last 10 years, I've applied to the space program 12 times, and I've been on the verge of giving up after each and every rejection. But you know what, sir? Here I am. So you could turn me down again, but rest assured, I'll be standing here again in a year.
We grew up watching our people make sacrifices. It's on us now.
Tenacity is a superpower.
This may not be your future, but it will always be your past.
Who better to leave this planet and dive into the unknown than a migrant farm worker?
5, 4, 3, 2.
You're not crying, are you, Pop?
No, hombre, no. Some dirt got into my eye.
So again, it's been out for over a year, and you can see it on Prime Video tonight. If you go home, fire it up, you'll be able to see it a million miles away. And I leave you with these parting thoughts. I gave you a 5-ingredient recipe. I added perseverance, and then we sort of together developed a 3-element strategy to reaching your goal. The first one, my first 6 rejections, I just focused on the first one, which was, meet minimum requirements. It wasn't until my lovely wife said, what do they have that you don't have, that we came up with the second one, which is compare yourself with the people you want to be like, and don't be afraid to invest in yourself to be more like them. Finally, differentiate yourself from the competition. My great differentiator was accepting that job no one wanted, which is to go to Russia, Siberia, because I knew it would help me further down the line. Sometimes you have to do things you don't like to get to the point you want to be. So don't be afraid to take on those tasks, because in the long run, you know they're going to help you. And that's the strategy I took. Finally, I'll leave you with my contact information. I have a foundation in the Central Valley called Reaching for the Stars, where we preach the good gospel of STEM careers to kids that are in underserved communities, such as where I grew up. And we have a summer academy at the University of the Pacific, 7th through 12th graders. They spend 5 weeks on the campus so they can see themselves on the university campus. And then we teach them next year's math and science core curriculum for them so that they do better in school. And this is a great program we have. We run year after year, been running it for over 12 years now, and I'm very proud of it. And having said that, I think that is it. So a big thank you for everything and for being such a great audience. Probably took more than what I needed, but I just wanted to make sure I gave you the full conference that you guys deserve. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Gracias.
So the dangers of going to space didn't ever perturb you or like stop you from pursuing it?
It never stopped me. You think about it, but then you try to not think about it too much. I let my wife worry about that more than me.
Were there any times during your voyage that you were really worried or that something really bad happened?
How many times what?
During your space flight, were there any times where you got really worried?
No, I think the only time you're real worried is the first 8.5 minutes of flight, because it's the most dynamic. You got lots of fuel behind you, and it's basically you're on an exploding bomb that's exploding in a controlled fashion. But yeah, it is very, you don't take it lightly. There's a lot of risks involved. If you look at, we had like 130 some odd flights, and we lost 2 vehicles, so the probability is 1 in 70 that you would have a catastrophic failure. So, I mean, those aren't, they're small odds, but they're not that small. So thank you. Good question. The ongoing relationship with Miss Young, I'll tell you, when you're a crew member and you're going to launch into space, they give you 100 VIP passes to give to your family and friends. Of course, with being a Latino, is like, which of my cousins aren't coming, right? The good thing is I was able to siphon off some tickets from my crewmates. They didn't use all 100, and I had the school district look for Miss Young. She had just retired, and she was sitting next to my parents when my parents are still alive, and they witnessed the launch live. And Miss Young and her husband were there as well. So that was great. The unfortunate part of it is that in 2018 she passed away. So I don't get to visit with her, but I did. When I went back home, I was able to visit with her a few years, and unfortunately she passed away now. I'm very good friends with her daughter, though, now. She's also a teacher.
So, was it your idea for that mammogram to go?
No, it wasn't, but there's nothing we can't do about that because physics is physics. You want to minimize the distance where the X-ray enters and it exits. Why? Because if you make it larger, the possibility of X-ray scatter increases, and that reduces the clarity of the image. So even though it hurts, the more you squeeze, the clearer the image and better results you're gonna get. So physics is physics, and we can't avoid that. But yeah, you're not the first one to complain about it.
So, Jose, thank you for sharing your story
Yes.
with us. 2 questions. Could you tell us about the lithium hydroxide canister incidents, changing them? And the second question is, what was going through your mind on the first 2 attempts before you actually did get into space?
Oh, well, hang on. The lithium hydroxide, it can remind me of that one because there's several incidents on that.
Where you learned when you got back that the trainers didn't necessarily tell you how to turn it.
Oh no, it wasn't it wasn't a lithium hydroxide canister. It was it was the filter, air filtering system. I'll tell you this story, and you train 18 months for a 14-day mission, right? And you train what you're going to be doing many times ad nauseum. And there was one that really, really got to me, which was replacing air cabin filter. Because you did it once, and then I said, why do you have to do it again? And they keep teaching us, we keep doing it, because it's 4 screws. The screws you can't even lose because they're the type that stay on the panel. You remove the panel, you remove the filter, you replace the filter, and then you screw it back on, hunky-dory, right? So I remember the very first time we get into space, my first job is to replace that filter. And so I go and float, and I get the Phillips screwdriver, just like training. It's where it's supposed to be, 2-bag, Velcroed, everything. I fly back, float back to panel L4. I got to undo the screws. And I said, well, yeah, just like training, there's the 4 screws and all that. So there I am. I turn the screw. Remember, for each action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Instead of the screw going loose, my body starts torquing the other way. So I'm not turning the screw, I'm just turning my body. And I'm just embarrassed as heck because I am saying, I hope my colleagues aren't watching me. No one was watching me. And now I'm scratching my head, and I said, man, I got a conundrum. How am I going to unscrew these screws? And then I noticed there was some gray tape on what's the floor of our trainer. Back home, there's some gray tape. I remove them, and there's 2 foot loops. And I said, okay, oh, you know, I put 2 and 2 together right away. So I anchored myself on the foot loops. Now I could unscrew the screws and all that and replace the filter. And in my mind, I'm saying, man, I'm going to rip these guys a new one. These trainers don't know what they're training. They didn't tell me about this. I didn't even know. I bet you the foot loops aren't even in the trainer. And so I get back home, and I'm mad as heck. I go to the trainer, and I said, oops, there is the gray tape, but it wasn't undone. The gray tape was like I found it up in space. I'm still going to say something, I said. Now I wasn't as mad, but I'm going to say something. So when we have our meeting and say, is there any way we could have done the trainer better and all this, train you guys better? I raise up my hand. Hey, you know, when we get to cabin air filter and we practice it here and we go on spaces, it's a lot different. This is what happened to me. I couldn't torque and no one told me about the gray tape and all that. And they just start laughing. They say, ha, 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 we got you. We always assign this to the rookie and see how they react. So it's just a way of messing with you. And what was the second one?
What was going through your mind after the 2 previous attempts before actually launching the first?
Well, we got canceled twice. You're right. The first one got canceled due to weather. The second one, they had a fuel sensor failure, and so instead of the first one was supposed to be Monday, canceled, Wednesday canceled, and then Friday, that's when the launch director said, hey, Mother Nature's finally cooperating, looks like 3rd time's the charm. We finally launched. I couldn't believe it because we went up to like the 9-minute hold on the first one, and I said, I'm not going to believe it until I hear the engines. And then once the engine's lit up, I said, oh my God, we're going. Put down the visor, turn on the O2, and away we went. And I said, all right. I said, you know, we're going to make it or break it here, and thank God we made it. So thank you. Yes.
Mr. Hernandez, I have 2 questions for you. My first one is there any type of space sickness or disease? And my second one, is there any kind of smell in space?
Is there any what?
Kind of smell.
Kind of smell in space? Yeah, the smell, right? Okay, and what was the first one? I'm sorry.
The first one is there any kind of space disease or sickness?
Oh, any kind? No, you get what's called space adaptation sickness, which is basically, you know, your inner ear and everything that messes with you. It's kind of like being car sick for a couple of days. And then it wears off, and then when you come back to Earth, you get 1G readaptation sickness as well, similar but in an opposite way. But it's very minor. Some people it hits a lot harder than others. I just felt a little queasy, but that was it. And then smell in space, oh man, you know, when we docked to the station, we opened it up, man, it smelled like a gym. You know, and then a couple of days later, we were part of the problem too, so go figure. But yeah. And then when you go out in space and you come back, there's this metal kind of smell. It's kind of like you cut aluminum. That's how it smells like. And it's just the off-gassing of the airlock. All those molecules that off-gas, once you finally shut it down, shut the door and pre-pressurize it, you go in there, you kind of smell those molecules that off-gas, but nothing major.
How did it feel to have 0 gravity?
How does it feel to have 0, man? You feel like Superman. You feel like a superhero because you could do your best Superman impersonation and get away with it. You're flying. So it's pretty cool. You never get tired of 0G, especially sleeping. It's the best mattress in the world. Of course, it's out of the world, right?
Thanks a lot for coming to speak here tonight. I was wondering, how did you balance being a husband, being a father, with your really strenuous career?
Having a very, very, very understanding wife. So you got to know how to pick them. I certainly did, so.
Congratulations.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Yes.
So when you were making your mammogram machine, how did you like account for false positives? Like what steps did you take to kind of reduce those?
When I was making a mammogram machine, how did I account for false positives? I didn't worry about that. My job was to create images that were better than film screen systems. The algorithm I wrote to detect possible precursors to breast cancer were in a very super sensitive mode. It wasn't designed to replace the radiologist, but rather to help the radiologist focus in the obvious areas he should be focusing in. So I didn't worry about false positives, yeah. Yes. One more, go ahead.
My name is Justice Watkins. Thank you for coming to see
Justin,
us
how you
tonight.
doing?
My question is, there's a lot of discourse surrounding DEI and its initiatives, with some questioning the aptitude of colored or marginalized people holding a position, seemingly simply due to their identity, without even considering their training or experience. What do you think about the current discourse around DEI today, and how would you respond to the sentiments described?
Yeah, it's a shame what we're seeing right now with respect to that issue, but you know, when I was in grammar school, I experienced my first time I was discriminated, and I remember going to my mom, and she said, "Son, kill him with love." And I said, "What do you mean, Mom?" She said, "Show them who you are in here, and eventually you'll win them over. And those that you don't win over, just stay away from them." So right now, I think this is the point where we really need to show who we are as humans, as individuals, and really do our work and let our work speak for us. Because let's face it, the next 4 years are going to be tough years. We're just going to have to work around and make sure that we all get through these 4 years. And that's what we got to do, I think. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. And on that note,
thank you all again for coming, and another huge round of applause for our guest, Jose Hernandez. Thank you. We're so proud that he is a part of our Civil Rights Conference. This is the 25th anniversary, and on behalf of our Chancellor, who could not be here, Chancellor Freeman, and our Provost, and from UT Martin, just a little something there for you. Yes. And we have more events for the conference coming up. Later this week, there is a student-led panel on Black students navigating a predominantly white campus, so you all can come out for that. Next week, our keynote speaker is Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, so make sure you come to hear him. That's next Monday, 6 o'clock here in Watkins, and there are a couple of other events that we have scheduled. Please go to the website utm.edu/Civil Rights Conference, so you can find the entire lineup there. But thank you all so much. So glad that you all came out and you got a chance to hear this wonderful presentation from Jose Hernandez. So thank you all.